Hey guys, what is up? It is Cedar Flags here, and today I'm coming out with a very special video. This is my end of the year special, even though I'm going to post some other videos before the year ends. My top 10 roller coasters I've ridden for 2017. Now I'm going to get new credits next year like Steel Vengeance. So this list will change a lot next year, I feel like. This is my opinion. I think there are going to be a lot of unpopular opinions on this list. So, starting off at number 10 is actually the Beast at Kings Island. This is actually the only wooden roller coaster on this list. The Beast is something different, and the Beast is really unique when it comes to wooden roller coasters. Now, I was very impressed by the Beast. I think the thing that impressed me a lot about the Beast was its sheer duration and pacing. The speed, just going through those trees in the woods. It is an amazing coaster experience. It's really unique when it comes to roller coasters. When this opened, this was actually the tallest and fastest in the world, and to this day, it is still the longest wooden roller coaster in the world, and the longest roller coaster in North America. That's very impressive. So, going into number 9, we got Gatekeeper at Cedar Point. Now, I rode it back in 2013 for the first time. This was actually the first time I ever went to Cedar Point. It was the first coaster I rode since, it's near the front of the park. And I gotta say, when I rode it the first time, I loved it. It has always had that special place, and it is because I've ridden this roller coaster so many times, front and back row. I gotta say, if you're looking for force on this ride, definitely go in the back. But if you're looking for views, I gotta say my personal magic seat is the front row, right side. It is an amazing experience, definitely going over that wing over drop, and those keyholes are iconic. This is a long ride experience too, featuring 6 unique inversions, and I gotta say, if you ride in a certain seat, it is very forceful. Speaking of forceful, let's go to number 8, Banshee at Kings Island. This is actually the 3rd coaster in Ohio to make this list. This is a very fun ride. I got to ride this in the back row, and the back row experience on this, like Gatekeeper, is a very forceful experience. Most B&M roller coasters really slow down halfway through the ride. They go through their normal course of inversions. They go through their loop, their 0G roll, their Cobra roll. Then they go into the MCBR, and it's just a bunch of corkscrews and winding through the terrain, kind of like that. This one just keeps going. In fact, it seems like the elements get bigger. So it starts out with a batwing and a loop, and then it goes into one of the biggest, pretzel loops ever. It's actually the only pretzel loop currently to exist on the planet, and that's where you reach your top speed near the end of the ride. I loved this ride. It is just so forceful, and is a ride experience I will never, ever forget. Number 7 is actually the first B&M Hyper to make this list. It is Intimidator at Carowinds, and I gotta say, this is actually my least favorite B&M Hyper. Which, yeah, there's more on this list. I'm a huge fan of B&M Hypers, by the way. And, when I went to Carowinds, this was actually the 50th roller coaster I've ever ridden. And I rode this before Fury, so this was a very fun experience for me. And those airtime hills are relentless. They are an adrenaline rush on its own. The pacing's okay, but the airtime on top of those hills, especially if you sit near the back, are magical. These airtime hills will force you out of your seat. And they are just unbelievably huge. You just see everything just zip by. You see that turnaround, which is absolutely massive. You see that mid-course brake run that leads into that small little element. And it's just a flat-out fun ride. It's one of those rides where you get off where you just say, that was very fun. I loved it. Not the most forceful ride, but still an amazing ride. And it definitely deserves the spot. So number 6. Remember when I said I had history on Gatekeeper? Well, I even have more history on this ride. This is probably the roller coaster I've ridden more times than any other one on this list. We have Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood, my personal home park. I've been riding this since 2011, and I gotta say, this ride is pure adrenaline through and through. This ride has very insane pacing. The second drop is bigger than the first drop, way bigger than the first drop, by the way, because of the sheer size of the terrain. You go down a natural ravine going 85 miles an hour, hitting all those elements, and you end the ride off with a bunch of ejector airtime hills that really force you out of your seat. I think you're pulling almost negative 2 Gs on those things. It seems like the track actually drops below you when you go on these airtime hills. It feels like a drop tower style airtime. And it's a very short ride experience, but I gotta say, it is relentless from start to finish. Definitely recommend it. Please ride this if you go to Kennywood. It is worth everything. And number 5, we're going into the top 5 with my second B&M hyper on this list. We got Mako at SeaWorld Orlando. Wow, this was a fun ride. I only got to ride this once because I only stayed at SeaWorld for half a day, and I was going to ride it twice, but it started storming at around 5, so we got to leave early. But I still clocked everything in, including Mako. First ride of the day. I got to ride it it was like the third ride of the day. I got to ride it front row, left side, and I gotta say, this ride is like a mix of Phantom's Revenge and Intimidator. It has the amazing floater airtime hills you'll find on B&M Hypers, when it has some ejector airtime hills that will give you that sinking feeling too. It has flagector. This ride is a flagector machine, but that ejector airtime hill in the middle of the ride, that thing is magical. The clamshell is an amazing restraint, and yeah, Mako is an unforgettable experience that I will, of course, never forget. In number 4, we got Maverick. Yeah, at my, I guess you could say second home park, Cedar Point. This is a relentless ride too. When we're going into the more compact rides like Phantom's Revenge, this is definitely one of them. Maverick. Maverick. A lot of people consider this their number 1. And it's in my top 5. This is a very fun roller coaster. When the first time I rode it with the original restraints, I hated it. But when they got those new restraints, new intimate style over the shoulder restraints, this ride powered through. It hauled. It hauls every time I ride it. This is one of those rides that are fun and it packs a punch. You feel the intensity throughout the ride. It gives you some of the best airtime on the planet. You get so much airtime on that first drop, especially if you put your hands up. This ride, it's very long too. You remember when I said Phantom's Revenge was kind of short? This ride is long. The duration is very long. It's very fast too. It keeps up throughout the entire ride. It's kind of like Banshee, you know? It did not crack my top 3. There was one B&M hyper that actually beat it, which is Diamondback at Kings Island. That's a very unpopular opinion right there. This is a very fun roller coaster. This is actually my favorite roller coaster that's not a Giga, and I'll get to that in a little bit. You go up that lift hill, and throughout the rest of the ride, you just get so much airtime. Every hill gives you airtime, even if you're sitting near the front. You get this amazing ejector airtime over those hills. It seems like every airtime hill just keeps you out of your seat for like 5 seconds. That's what makes this better than rides like Maverick and Phantom. That's the one point right there. Just the airtime that lasts forever. It's my favorite hyper coaster of all time. And this roller coaster just the pacing's okay, but that doesn't matter when you have 5 seconds of sheer airtime on some of these airtime hills. And it's not just 1 or 2, it's like 7. And this is one of the longer B&M hypers. I think it's over a minute. And this ride is set to have 20 seconds of airtime, which is beautiful. We're going into the top 2. Coming at Gigas, now number 2 is... I'm going to get a lot of rage for this. Number 2 is Fury 325 at Carowinds. Wow, this ride, I came in with high expectations, and it exceeded. This was actually a surprise trip for me. Carowinds, wow, what a very amazing park. And their star attraction, Fury 325, the coaster I'm talking about. This is an insane roller coaster. A lot of people consider this their number 1 roller coaster. It's actually the number 1 coaster on the Golden Ticket Award list. It's Taylor's number 1. It's Logan's number 1. It is Mitch Hawker's. It's one of his favorites too. This is an amazing coaster. A lot of people love it. And I love it too. That first drop really takes you away. You get that view of downtown Charlotte. Those overbank turns, those are amazing. You're going like 80 miles an hour. You know, you think of the pacing on Maverick and Phantom's Revenge, you're only going like 60, 50 miles an hour. When on this one, it's a Giga, you're going like 80 miles an hour on those airtime bumps. It's insane. Those overbank turns take your breath away. That treble clef is amazing. If you sit near the back, you get airtime on the top of it. That hive dive. Those airtime hills at the end, I didn't know those were ejector until I actually rode it. That really surprised me. I'm very impressed by that part of the ride. And it is a very long ride. It actually clocks in over a minute. But there is one Giga roller coaster. Ever since 2013 when I rode it for the first time, this ride has just always been my number 1. It's meant so much to me. It is Millennium Force at Cedar Point. Now, I know a lot of people will call this forceless, and I know it didn't even make Taylor Bybee's top 25, but this one makes my number 1 easily. I've been waiting so long to talk about this roller coaster. This is relentless. It has airtime like a B&M Hyper. It has overbanked turns like Fury. It has the first drop of Maverick. It has the restraints. It has everything a coaster enthusiast would love, and especially me. I wrote this back in 2013, like I said, and ever since then, it's been my number one. No coaster has topped it, and Fury 325 was sure close, but this ride it stays on the top. It always stays on the top. It's my dad's number one. It's a lot of my friends' number one too. That first drop is probably the best first drop I've ever been on. And those airtime hills, those floater airtime hills, you actually pop out of your seat for like 5 seconds like Diamondback. Those overbank turns through Dinosaurs Alive, they're amazing. And I don't think this coaster will be topped anytime soon. And, maybe Steel Vengeance might give it a run for its money. But for now, Millennium Force is my number one. I hope you guys enjoyed my top 10. This is my personal opinion. You guys could argue with me, whatever. I really don't care. So what's your personal top 10? Put it down in the comments below. Or, maybe I might see one of your YouTube videos. But this is my top 10 for 2017. I might be getting a lot of new credits next year in 2018 as I did this year. So I hope you guys enjoyed. This is Cedar Flags. Peace out.